figures of speech, metaphor, simile, and personification, the importance of these devices in enhancing your creative writing skills, and the significance of these devices in understanding the writer's craft, a character, or an event in a short story. Before we begin, it is very important for students to understand the lesson objectives and the outcome. Students will develop the ability to use language as a tool to communicate and express creatively and imaginatively in a more effective way. Literary devices serve a very important purpose in your creative writing process. These devices become a catalyst for thought-provoking and innovative sentences. Now, what I mean by that is that by incorporating these devices like metaphor, simile, or personification in your essays or your creative writing work, students can firstly enhance the meaning of what they are trying to say, and they can convey the same emotion, feeling, or information in a more effective and powerful way. Within the realm of literature, these devices play an equally important role because they help a student to better understand a symbol, character, or situation more clearly. For example, if a character in a short story is being compared to a caged bird, so if the writer were to say, so-so character is like a caged bird or is a caged bird, for a literature student, the first thing is to identify which literary device is being used. After doing that, you can then start to really delve deeper into the reason behind this character being compared to that particular symbol. So is the writer trying to say that this particular character's freedom has been snatched away? Because of course the word caged tells us that perhaps the character is imprisoned in a life he doesn't want. Is he isolated? His freedom has been snatched away. So a simplistic literary device like a simile or a metaphor can help to open a student's mind to all of these questions. And when you answer these questions and when you analyze, that is when you truly understand the power of the device and why the writer is using it. They will learn and use vocabulary in a different and more creative way, inculcating deep thoughts and reasoning. We will begin by discussing metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action in a way that isn't literally true, but helps explain an idea or make a comparison. For example, if you wanted to describe your school as being very busy, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot happening, but you don't want to use the same mundane sentences like my school was so busy, there was a lot of children running around, a lot of work was happening. You can use a metaphor like my school's a zoo, and in doing so, you can fulfill lesson objective 1, which is how these devices help to convey that same information, emotion, feeling in a more effective and powerful way. So it's the same information, your school is busy, but instead of saying that in 2 to 3 sentences, you've said that in a compact metaphor. Same goes for the following examples. You want to describe somebody as being very courageous and brave. You could say he has the heart of a lion. You want to describe the day as being very hot, the sun being very loud. You could say the rays of the sun were a volcano ready to explode. Moving on to simile. A simile is a figure of speech that makes a comparison showing similarities between 2 different things. Unlike a metaphor, a simile draws resemblance with the help of the words like or as. So a very good way of differentiating between a metaphor and a simile is that a simile will use like or as, and a metaphor will not. So as wise as an owl, to describe somebody as being very intelligent. You want to describe somebody as being very slow as a snail. A task as being very easy, it's as easy as ABC. You want to perhaps create a character in an essay that is very sad, perhaps very lonely. So instead of saying that, you could say he was standing with his head hung like a wilting flower or a wilting daisy. So you've said the same thing, but you've done it in a more effective way. And in doing so, you have created this image, this powerful image in the mind of the examiner that is creative, that is imaginative, and innovative. Now, for those of you who have read the Percy Jackson novels, perhaps you are well versed with Greek mythology and know Greek gods and goddesses, like Poseidon. Now, if in a short story, a character is being compared to Poseidon, or for those of you who perhaps don't know Greek mythology, if a character is being compared to a lion or to an eagle, to a mighty eagle, to a tiger, to a cheetah, then you know that that character is important. Because not every character in a story is going to be compared to such powerful similes or metaphors. The tertiary characters, the secondary background characters are not going to be compared to such powerful similes and metaphors. So these devices also help you to differentiate between the important characters, the pivotal characters, and of course, the background characters. They also help you to really better understand a character's thoughts, a character's feelings and emotions, a character's personality, his traits. So if he's being compared to a mighty eagle, you know he's powerful. A lion, you know he's brave. He's being compared to a fox, you know he's clever. So the domination, the domineering traits are all highlighted or all represented through similes and metaphors. That's why these devices are very important even within the realm of literature. Moving on to personification. Personification is the figure of speech in which a thing, an idea, or an animal is given human attributes. So the alarm clock yelled. We know that an alarm clock cannot physically yell, and that yelling is a human trait. Or the brutal wind, we know that wind cannot be brutal, so that is a human emotion, or you describe a human as that, so that is why. Or bullying, so that is why it is a personification. Now, if you were to compare the two sentences, you would firstly be able to tell which of them has the personification hidden there, and of course, which of these is the more creative one. So the cruel and angry wind was blowing ferociously outside, warning us of the impending doom, compared to the wind was blowing loudly and we knew danger was near. Now, both of them are saying the same thing. They're talking about the wind being very loud, and it was warning the people of the fact that danger was near. Now, both of them have the same information. It is the fact that one of them has the personification, the more effective personification, and has the creativity and the imagination in it. So, of course, that's your number one, the sentence. The cruel and angry wind, we know that wind cannot be angry or cruel. So, of course, that is the human emotion that is being added. Was blowing ferociously outside, warning. We know that only human beings can warn each other of something. So the wind cannot warn. So that is why that is a personification. So if you were to use the first sentence, it would instantly create this image in the mind of the examiner of this wind, and it would have a very effective way of elevating the sentence. If this sentence was also in your short story or a novel that you were reading, then you know that if nature is being described or wind is being described as angry and cruel, then it would prompt you to ask questions like, is nature angry? Is nature evil? Is nature, and of course the word warning could be that perhaps nature is warning the characters in the story of impending doom. So do you see, within your language or within your essays, you can use these devices to elevate and to enhance and to better your sentences. And within the realm of literature, you can use the same devices to understand the character, understand the situation more clearly. Now, this is a very short method that you can use to effectively incorporate devices in your essays. So your first sentence should include a metaphor, second should include a simile, and third should include personification. So the sun was a volcano, that is your metaphor. I was like a forlorn traveler finding shelter among the thorny branches and dried leaves, like is your simile. The cruel sun was holding me captive under its sharp clutch. Cruel, of course, that is your personification. Under its sharp clutch is also personification. I wanted to escape, but like a caged bird, I could not break free. Like again is a simile. These are very simplistic sentences, very basic, but by adding the similes, you have elevated them. You have added creativity and imagination to them. So a recap of today's lesson, we have discussed metaphor, simile, personification, the importance of incorporating these devices in your narrative and descriptive essays, how to elevate your creative writing skills, how to add these devices to add color, imagination, creativity, how significant, of course, it is to understand how the writer is using these literary techniques to make stories more interesting. and how to differentiate between the metaphor, simile, and personification. This is a very short recommended reading list to improve your creative and literary skills.